like to say good afternoon and welcome to the Shreveport City Council meeting. We ask that at this time, if you'd be kind enough to turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. We're going to ask that Councilman Jackson would lead us in prayer. We're going to ask that Councilman Telefarrell will lead us in the pledge.
Everybody can bow their heads. Gracious Father, we come to you just to praise your name. We ask that you continue to bless over the city. We ask that you bless over the administration. We ask that you bless over this council. We ask that you bless our citizens. We ask that you covered us and allow this to be your will and not our own will. We ask this and many other blessings in your daughter's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All face the flag. As we say our pledge, let us be mindful of the sacrifices of our MIAs and POWs. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very kindly. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Taylor.
Present.
Councilman Brooks. Councilman Telefarrell.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Butcher. Councilman Jackson.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Tomorrow, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference meeting Monday, October 23rd, 2023, and the city council meeting Tuesday, October 24, 2023. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? Councilwoman Bowman?
Yes, I do, Chairman. Colton, can you come on up? Here's a presentation. Oh, my. Okay. It's slow.
It's a lot.
It's slow.
As he's coming, if you can hear me in the sound room, would you turn the mics up some?
Okay, first giving honor to my Lord and Savior, I would like to thank Councilwoman Bowman for allowing me to be here as our guest today. I would like to thank the mayor and the council for allowing me the opportunity to make this presentation. A little about myself. My name is Felton Kolar, born and raised in a small town named Jeanerette, about 35 minutes away from Lafayette, Louisiana. I have over 30 years in the construction industry. I've worked in the oil field and gas industry as a first-class fitter for Shell and BP. Constructed living quarters for Oceaneering and rehab living quarters for Bollinger. Eventually, I decided to pursue my own contracting business and successfully acquired my general contracting license in the state of Louisiana. I've performed design build services, worked for several clients on their public and private projects, and in 2015-18 rehabbed 2 apartment complexes, Town Oak South Apartments on Uri Drive and St. Charles Place located in Bossier. Currently, I'm providing consulting and design build services for 4 affordable housing organizations in the city to help provide clean, decent, and affordable housing. I'm here today hoping to get your support and approval to acquire city-owned land, either via donation or long-term lease, to open a cement brick manufacturing plant in the city of Shreveport. The plant will be located on property identified in Councilwoman Bowman's district. Corehouse Manufactured Stones, a minority-owned manufacturing company, desires to set up a manufacturing plant that will provide job opportunities to the citizens of the city. The company will provide economic impact for the city in the following ways listed below. The development of the manufacturing facility will provide 30 to 50 temporary jobs needed to construct the facility and its infrastructure. Once the facility is ready for operation, approximately 48 indirect jobs will be produced. CMS will train and develop specialized installation crews for its mortarless siding products. This will enable CMS to employ and train 4 to 5 project managers. Each project manager will consist of 4 to 6 individuals per crew. This opportunity will allow for an additional 25 to 30 new hires. CMS plant operations, administrative, and field combined will employ up to 15 permanent hires. The company will produce upwards of $1 million to $1.7 million in annual payroll, and growth projections based on distribution outreach to over $3 million annually in 5 years. Colas Manufactured Stones will have an economic impact for years to come through sales taxes, city, parish, and state taxes. The company will provide corporate charitable giving throughout the year to assist nonprofit organizations in quality of life impact for city citizens. The CMS manufacturing plant and its expansion over the next few years will create more job opportunities for the total community and business opportunities for other job sectors, such as truck drivers, construction, new business development, and other common economic impact in business creation for greater community and annual employment income. Today, I brought with me the presentation photos that you all have that provides more information about Colas Manufactured Stone. Inside, you will find renderings of the proposed site, pictures and schematics of the equipment that I will be using. Product production sheets with pictures that tell you the products that I will be manufacturing at the plant. My license and my certifications and letters of support. I'm blessed to work with Shreveport locals, Ms. Bonnie Moore and her team, Ms. Amanda at Sussler Small Business Development Center. At the state level, I'm a part of LED CEO Roundtable and System for Integrated Growth for Level 2 corporations. Currently, I'm working with Louisiana Workforce Commission regarding training and certifications for employees and special population hires. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Kohler,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kohler, thanks. We have a new system. I'm sorry if you couldn't hear me a few minutes ago. I want to thank you for wanting to invest in our community. I did talk to Ms. Moore, and I let her know I was on board with everything you have, and I'll be glad to welcome you to District G.
Yes, thank you.
These are nice stones.
That's it.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is Chief Smith here?
No, it's not here yet. We'll come back.
Can you ask Chief Davis to come up? Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm
How you
good.
doing?
Would you explain to me, for clarification, that if there is a domestic abuse situation, what is the procedure that, be it female or male, that they would need to follow in order to receive assistance from the police?
Well, the criteria is, when we get there, we determine if there is a need, first of all, by a
Okay.
series of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Once those questions are answered, if we do determine that someone has been battered, or if there's a need somewhere, maybe they need a shelter or escort out or something to that nature, then those are the things that we do. Sorry, I did turn it off. I must have turned it back on. I apologize for that. Once we do that, we work it by the numbers. If there's an arrest that needs to be made, we try to determine who is the aggressor in the situation, and once we've determined that, then we arrest them, take them to jail, and start that type of process. Afterwards, we also give the victim the assistance that he or she may need in terms of if there's medical, or if it's not medical, if they need assistance with a shelter, we can try to assist them with that, and it's not always successful, but we will try. If they need a ride somewhere, then we definitely will try. If there were children involved, we also will get, if necessary, child protection involved.
If someone wants to just file a report, can they just come to the police station and do that? Or are they referred to a partnering organization as it relates to filing a complaint about domestic violence?
If you do just want to file a report, you can.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, as far as police officers are concerned, we don't have a choice in that matter.
okay.
We do file the report. Once you've reported something like that to us and we can determine that there has been some domestic situations going on, we do write the report. That's a shall for us.
Okay.
It's not an
Not
option.
Okay, all right.
If you have a need for some other assistance, we'll try to facilitate that.
Okay. On the call outs, if a person calls in, is there a risk, well, let me say this like this. If a situation has occurred, and let's say that they're calling 24 hours after a situation occurs, is it better for them to come into the police station and file a report, or will an officer come to the home to file a report?
We'll always go to your home.
Okay.
If you're within the city limits of Shreveport, we will go to you. If
Okay.
you're not here and you've sought your own safety net and it's not here, then we will suggest that you do follow up with that police agency.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, is the city
Anybody else?
attorney here? Attorney Edwards.
Good afternoon,
Good
Councilwoman.
afternoon, how are you?
Doing well.
Question, the noise ordinance, when is it applicable to write a ticket for the noise ordinance? Do you write a ticket when the door is open and closing and you hear the noise? Or do you have to just be outside and somebody makes a complaint and it's 50 feet away and a ticket is written?
To be clear, are you talking about as it is currently in
As it
effect right now
currently is.
today?
Yes.
Okay. As it's currently in effect today, it says any time after 10 p.m., anytime noise can be clearly audible, noises or sound is clearly audible outside of an establishment, they can be cited. Now, there's a great amount of discretion that a police officer can use, that law enforcement can use to determine whether or not it's reasonable or unreasonable. I do not believe anytime you hear a peep when a door opens, the police SPD is in the practice of issuing citations in that situation. But the way it is currently written is that if you are conducting business in such a way that is clearly audible from the receiving line of another property, technically, a citation could be written
From another property?
from another property.
Is their property being a residence or the property being a car? What's considered to be the property?
It's going to be immovable property, so it's not going to be a car, but it
Okay.
can be anyone else's residence, business, any of the receiving line of any other property. That's just the clearly audible standard.
Okay,
There's also certain noise-sensitive operations, businesses. So that's going to be your schools, your nursing homes, those sorts of places. They have a lesser standard for what is and isn't appropriate, I guess, level of sound that can be going there. There, it's not the 10 p.m. line. At a receiving line for a noise-sensitive property, it's not the 10 p.m. line, it's at any time. And there are specific decibel levels in the Code of Ordinances about what level of sound can infiltrate, let's say, that receiving line. And the receiving line is the property of another, someone that's, a property that's owned by someone else.
okay. Are the decibel meters in place at that particular point in time, or just because it's clearly audible, you don't have to use a decibel reader?
So under the ordinance that's currently in place,
Yes, sir.
law enforcement is not allowed to use the decibel
Okay.
readers to determine whether or not something is too loud.
Okay,
That is only to be done by the city engineering department people, Wes Weish, the noise enforcement officer.
okay,
So the only time My understanding is the only time that SPD will be issuing citations is when it's clearly audible after 10 p.m. from another
From the
property,
receiving property
from a
line.
receiving property line.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I have a question. What is it under the new ordinance, the proposed ordinance?
Okay, so the proposed ordinance 145, as it is currently written, is that at a receiving line, if the sound under current 145, as it is proposed, if the noise at a downtown entertainment district bar or restaurant, or at other bars, restaurants, or clubs is 75 decibels or above until 1:30 a.m., then a citation can be written. And once we get the enforcement stuff in, assuming that ordinance gets passed, then SPD can use a noise reading device to determine whether or not the sound is greater than 75 decibels. After 2 a.m., I believe that goes down to 70 under current 145, off the top of my head. There are a couple of amendments that have been proposed as well, changing the decimal levels from 75 to 70 until either 1:30 a.m. or 1 a.m., and then after that time period, down to 65. And that is for downtown entertainment district businesses. Now, there's also an amendment differentiating downtown entertainment district businesses from bars, clubs, restaurants outside of the downtown entertainment district, which would reduce that amount, if passed, to 65 decibels until either 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m., and 60 after that. I just said a lot of words and numbers, but there are a number of amendments out there that may or may not come up or may or may not be voted on tomorrow to amend proposed ordinance 145.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Mr. Blackwell, would you come up, please?
Tanya, will you let them know in the audio that you can't hear the feed via Channel 6?
Mr. Blackwell, how you doing?
Doing great.
Hey, listen, I just want to take my hat off to you and say thank you. Mr. Dark and I was riding on Friday through my district, and lo and behold, we came up to the airport, and y'all was planting daisies and tulips, and I just want to say thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, we're doing our best out there to get it looking great. Sprinkler systems getting fixed. We're putting weed and seed on all the grounds around the terminal. So we're definitely working on that.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And one other update for the noise.
Yes, sir.
Our runway our primary runway is about to open. It was supposed to open on Friday, but it didn't. But today, it should be open by the end of the day. So planes will be going north-south and not over the neighborhood. So
Okay.
just wanted to update you on that.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep, thank you.
Any other council member? Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards recognition of distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes today?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Mayor, do you have any other communication related to city business?
No, sir, I do not.
Thank you. Does any member have any concerns related to property standards for Mr. Green?
Tell him he can sashay on out of here.
Mr. Green, they say you can sashay on back. We don't have anything for you.
I need to learn to sashay.
Will there be a revenue collection plan implementation report finance tomorrow? I'm sure it will. Public hearing, we have public hearing tomorrow on 2024 proposed budget ordinance 144 of 2023. Mr. Dark, will there be any legislation added tomorrow?
Mr. Chairman, City Attorney Edwards is working on something, and if it happens to be ready in time, we'll ask you to add it tomorrow, but that's still kind of uncertain. So he's been working with Tanya, so hopefully we'll get it all worked out.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Today, we will have public comments on non-agenda item and also agenda items, and the vice chair will control the list and also the time.
Ms. Willie Walker, you have 3 minutes, Ms. Walker.
How y'all doing today?
Good.
My name is Willie Walker, and I live in Cherokee Park, Highland area. And I'm here today about the sex offenders that's in our neighborhood, and we need help. We want to know, could we get cameras or police to patrol the area? What type of help can y'all give us? We have 4 sex offenders in one house, right by a school bus stop. And it's dark when the kids are standing there waiting on their bus.
So we had a meeting in Cherokee Park about 2 weeks ago, correct, Ms. Walker?
Yes.
And so what we're waiting on is to receive an update from MPC regarding the letter that would be sent to probation and parole regarding the house. I believe that Chief Wayne talked about going in and increasing patrols in that area.
We still haven't got that.
Okay, so we'll tell them again to make sure that we increase patrols in that area. Chief Smith? But I do understand that the house is up for sale, correct?
That's just a front. It's a front.
Are they still there?
Yes.
Okay.
They have 2 vehicles there now.
Okay.
I'm familiar with the house on Tecumseh that you're talking about, and we do have visual in that area. You may not see us, but we see you, and we're going to continue to do so. And I thought our agreement was at the meeting, I cannot guarantee you
Right.
every day that there'll be an officer there at the bus stop, so I need help from the community, the neighborhood also. We'll be there as much as possible, but I can't guarantee you every day someone will be
Well,
there.
today they was blocking, they had a van blocking the camera that we put up to face the house.
The resident did, the 4 people that live there?
Well, they came from that house.
Okay.
And we have a camera that's facing
Right.
the door, where they come in and out.
Yeah, okay. But the van is legally parked on their property, right?
No, it was parked on the street right by the house that's got the camera up.
Okay. All right, we'll go have a look. We'll go
Okay.
have a look.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
What'd she say?
She
Thank
said
you.
Oh, thank y'all. Have a good day.
Louis Avalone?
It's at Louis Avalone, P.O. Box 5072, Shreveport 71135. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Butcher has indicated he will be proposing to remove the closure and abandonment agenda item for this meeting, and I'm grateful for that. I regret taking up your valuable time, not because this isn't important, but whenever a person or persons appear before this body, it ought to be for a matter regarding the public interest. And this is not in the public interest, this matter that is before you. If anyone is not sure about whether this closure and abandonment is in the public interest or not, just ask yourself who benefits. It's a single property owner. To give you some idea of what is being proposed with this closure and abandonment, imagine when you drive home tonight that you live at the end of a street, a dead end right in front of your driveway. and your neighbor parks his car in that dead-end area in front of your driveway, so that every time someone drives down your street and needs to turn around, they're forced to turn around in your driveway every day, 365 days a year. And that is what the petitioner is proposing for the end of the driveway in front of my driveway. And while this dead end is not in the MPC's driveway, and it's not in the city engineer's driveway or backyard, it's in my backyard. And for every fire truck or emergency vehicle that needs to turn around in that dead end, when precious seconds count, it's in their backyard. It's in the public interest. And it has been that way since 1958. There's no public interest here, and I thank you for your time.
Denise Moss.
Hi, my name is Denise Moss, and I really appreciate being here, being able to speak before you. I would like to say that I am pro-immigration, but I'm also pro-rule of law. So my concern today is the Louisiana Advocates for Immigrants in Detention that's located at the Highland Center. They shelter undocumented immigrants that have been released from detention that are purportedly seeking asylum. So the photo I saw recently was a large group of young male foreign nationals, no women, no children. And just the fact that they're seeking asylum doesn't necessarily make them lawful permanent residents. It doesn't mean the court's going to grant them asylum either. They haven't had their court date yet. And we know that right now the easiest way for someone crossing the border illegally to avoid deportation is just to say, I'm seeking asylum. And at that moment, they cannot be deported back. So that is a safety concern that I have. I know that also housing these young men on the same campus as a lot of the children's programs that are at the Highland Center is very concerning, because all it's going to take is just one incident with one child for it to turn out very badly. So just as a concerned citizen, we don't know who these people are. We don't have resources to determine if they're nefarious people or not. I spoke to an ICE supervisor at the Oakdale Detention Facility, and I was just saying, hey, can you just assure me that their asylum claims are valid? I just want to know these people getting released, that it's okay. They're coming to Shreveport. It's in our community. And he said, ma'am, I understand your concern. He said, I'm just going to tell you, we vet them to the best of our ability. But they have to pass a credible fear test, which is easy to pass. And they're very small percentage of the people who pass the credible fear test actually get granted asylum. So I just don't know that there's large groups that are coming through here and they're being housed there. If this is a great idea for our community, I'm concerned from a safety standpoint. And I know this isn't Caddo Parish Commissioners, but I just thought I would mention this, that I know LA Aid receives money from Caddo Parish. So when I was speaking to some of the commissioners, they were very confused. They're like, no, we gave this money to the Highland Center. We didn't give it to LA Aid. And I was like, well, here's the document you actually did, you know. And so I just think that maybe LA Aid is not as transparent as they should be with their money. Also, when I look at their website, you start clicking on their links to their parent company, this Freedom for Immigrants, and they're just bold. They state, our #1 goal is to abolish all detention centers and ICE. And then I'm going to quote another one. Excuse me, sorry.
Ms. Moss, I'm sorry, it's your
Am I
time is-
done?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you very much for your time.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Is the first name DeCavion or DeCavion?
We will have an executive appointment to consider tomorrow. There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction or to be adopted. Mr. Dark, would you proceed with regular agenda legislation, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. 166 of 2021, establishing the TIF district and a portion of District F is available for passage tomorrow. There is a companion piece of legislation, Ordinance 156, it's on introduction, that will actually implement all this. So I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, whether you want to do those at the same time 2 weeks from now, or whether you're ready to pass, but it is that.
We'll just do it 2 weeks from now.
Okay,
Yeah.
good deal.
And then it'll all be together.
132 and 133 are the contracts, one-year contracts between the crew, between the city and the crews of Gemini and Centaur. This was obviously a lot of discussion earlier in the year, but I think we've all worked out the matter to satisfaction. A lot of the things that are in the contract are things that were always in the original policies that SPAR put out, but this makes it a little bit more enforceable, and I think everybody will benefit from that. 134 ratifies the selection of an engineering firm called Half and Associates for a project called Ockley Basin Storage Improvements. Normally this wouldn't come to you. It came through A&E committee in the normal way, and the recommendation was that this company be selected. But apparently there was a section in the request for services that required that it come at least be presented to you. So that's why you're getting it. It's not anything unusual. I'm not sure why that particular section was in the RFS, because it usually isn't, but that's why it's here. 134 recognizes Cortland Malloy Sr., dedicated teacher and entrepreneur and printer, and met him long ago, wonderful fella. And 136 recognizes Turkey Fry Guys, who are trying to sell 1,000 turkeys for the benefit of Gingerbread House, and I believe is Mr. Butcher's Pizza legislation.
Are there any questions on any of these items? If not, Mr. Dark, would you proceed with introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to November 28, 2023?
Yes, sir. 137 is approving an assignment of a lease. This is another one of those where a firm got the lease bids through the State Mineral Board, and they want to assign it to a different firm. It doesn't change any of our royalties or anything else. It's just a different firm that'd be writing the checks. 138 is also something you've seen earlier this year, because we have some fiduciary responsibility with the Northwest Louisiana Housing Finance Agency. When they do certain term sheets, then we have to actually say grace over them. This is a solar firm in a parish not here, but that's all it is. It's just pro forma approval. 139 is authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement for certain city-owned property. As part of the Valencia Park property is also next to Caddo Magnet High School. Caddo Magnet has been running a softball field there for some time, and this actually formalizes putting that lease so that they can make some additional improvements. 140, there was a lease some time ago, about 13 years ago, between what was then First United Methodist Church and what was then Millennium Studios. And both of those ownerships have now changed, so we're trying to update the paperwork so that the lease continues to be valid. It's for use of some property for a parking lot, but now it will be the newly reconstituted First Methodist Church and the city of Shreveport. None of the other provisions change.
Are there any questions on any of these items? Mr. Dork, will you proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to November 28, 2023?
Yes, sir. 147 and 148 are companions with each other. 148 actually amends the capital improvements budget to add 3 new airport projects and to add funding to several others. There's a almost $6 million project to expand the terminal gate area. That's all state and federal money. There's a $12.3 million project to expand the apron area, which is all state and federal. $700,000 project to build a perimeter fence at downtown airport, which is also state and federal. It also adds about $2.7 million from the airport's reserves, a little bit to a runway rehab project at downtown, some money to continue to rehab the old Army Reserve building at downtown, and so we've got $1 million from the reserves to the terminal concourse and modernization project at regional, and another $1 million to a project to continue to rehab Hangar 40. It also closes 11 projects because we discovered earlier this year that city ordinance, at least at this point, requires us to formally bring you projects to be closed. But that $2.7 million in new airports funding is actually removed from their reserves by ordinance 147. 149 amends the capital budget to provide American Rescue Plan, or ARP, funding for 3 capital projects: Ninth Street, Ford Street, and approximately $4 million to our Neighborhood Streets program project to allow some bids we've received earlier this year to be taken. That will leave us with, once they deduct the amounts from that are in the 2020 budget, and one we've still got to do for 2023, it'll leave us about a little less than $4 million, or excuse me, a little less than $5 million that we'll have still in ARP money to commit before the end of next year. 150 is my continuing effort to make sure that we have our budget ordinances match what we actually spend during the year. We're revising appropriations in about 7 different departments. All of them are net zero except Public Works, which adds $180,000 to cover some expenses they've had there, and that money is coming from oil and gas revenue that we've already received. 151 is a little bit different one for us. It amends the general fund budget. The city has 2 old pension systems that deal with folks that retired long ago, and both of those pension systems were originally set up with a payment schedule that was supposed to make them fully funded for all time. That did not turn out to be the case. And so what we have is we have a police fund that is roughly 85% funded, and a fire pension system that is roughly 40 to 45% funded. We are asking you to move $1 million from the general fund reserve into the fireman's fund this year. We have had a lot of disagreement about how this is supposed to work. Our commitment has been always that we owe the beneficiaries of these 2 pension plans everything that they were promised until the last beneficiary passes away. And the fireman system is so deeply in the hole that it is going to require periodic infusions of funding. We happen to have a little money to do that this year, and so that's why we're doing that. This may not happen every year, but it's an attempt to stave off for as long as we can the day when you're going to have to make these payments just straight out of operating funds. Let's see, 152 amends the community development budget. Apparently they had let a couple of appropriations lapse that needed to be reinstated. A couple $100,000 from the Department of Interior for the Old Galilee Church project, and a $500,000 from the Home Mortgage Authority for the Bayou Grande project. 153 amends the golf budget. This is not one we amended earlier, so we're just getting to that. $150,000 from reserves to various supplies and salaries and services, and that's just based on their estimated spending for this year. 154 does the same thing for water and sewer. They have a need for additional funding for chemicals. We're taking some of that from their reserve and some of that from elsewhere in the budget, so the reserve actually only goes down about $300,000. 155 amends the MPC budget. It's a really minor one. It moves $6,000 from salaries to supplies, but it keeps us from having a budget that's out of balance. 156 is the ordinance that is on introduction, which I'm not absolutely sure is still linked to you yet. Is it now linked, Tanya? But this one actually creates the Economic Development District in District F. We have been working with an attorney to try to make sure that we got all this done. I know he and Councilman Green have been working together pretty closely, and there will be some discussion, probably more of that next time.
He was here earlier today. He just stepped out.
Oh, okay. 157 amends the code relative to landfill fees. As you remember from last year, or earlier this year, the landfill contractor is allowed to go up to 6% a year based on cost of living, and that's what they're doing, and we are passing that on by this ordinance effective in January. 158 is the noise ordinance. I know there are a number of amendments to 158, and I think this has been discussed previously. If you all want to go into more detail, that would be probably for y'all to do.
So what is this one?
Excuse me, this is the measurement one, I apologize. This is the one that was the companion to the one that was vetoed last time that will change the enforcement from the Wes White's group in Environmental Services back to the police. This one was vetoed with the other one, and in order to put it all into effect, this is what that would have to do. I'm sorry. 159 amends the code, or amends the Unified Development Code relative to liquor sales. It puts a number of restrictions on where you can site a liquor store. It puts more specific provisions in about what happens if a business closes for 90 days. This was recommended unanimously by MPC. 160 is another UDC amendment relative to accessory dwelling units. What this is doing is codifying very specifically what is an accessory dwelling unit, where it can go, how far it has to be from the property line. Apparently the existing language is confusing enough where MPC gets a lot of questions about it, and sometimes people get in trouble because they think they've followed it and didn't quite do so. 161 is zoning case 23-178. This piece of property on the west side of Linwood near Mount Zion Road. It's currently residentially zoned. The owner came in asking for C3, ended up getting C1. It's a piece of property that is fairly narrow, and I think he was trying to figure out how to sell it where he could use the front part of it for commercial and the back part of it for some sort of residential, and MPC did in fact unanimously approve that one. That's in Mr. Jackson's district.
Thank you. Are there any questions on any of these items?
So when we go back to ordinance 158, and voting yes for this amendment allows, for this ordinance allows the police department to enforce the noise ordinance?
Yes, 158 is in fact, yeah, this I believe is almost identical, if not completely identical, to the one that was caught up in all the vetoes the last time. Because there's always been the effort to have police be able to enforce it as opposed to someone from environmental services who just knows how to run the meter.
So when we voted on this one before, we passed it, correct?
I believe you did, but I believe it was
But you vetoed it.
I believe it was vetoed with the other one.
If I may speak, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It was vetoed because there were some cross-references in the other ordinance to the other vetoed ordinance. This will clarify that. This has to do with the measurement. All the other provisions are in the one that is before you today. And I have consulted with the city attorney to make sure that they can be passed on separate days without a conflict. He has assured me that they can.
What measurements will that deal with?
It deals with the certain technical requirements of measurement, mostly dealing with with things like the industrial uses that are in place and sound management plans.
Okay.
Are there any other questions on any of these items? Mr. Dork, will you proceed with ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Yes, sir. 141 amends the capital budget. We have gotten a capital outlay, an additional amount of capital outlay fund, just under $300,000 through Representative Tammy Phelps, and this provides funding for road improvements in House District 3. 142 amends the capital budget to add essentially $15 million from bond funds for lift station upgrades, generators for booster pump stations, and other wastewater infrastructure projects. 143 shows up on your agenda, but it's actually, I believe it was removed last time. So I assume when the clerk prints the new one for tomorrow, it won't be here. It is the same ordinance as 159, I believe, that's on introduction.
This one will need to be withdrawn.
Yes, sir. 140, do you need a motion on that now, or do?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay, just checking. 144 is the King Place one, which I believe I heard Mr. Avalone say Councilman Butcher was going to ask to be removed from the agenda.
Yes, sir. Is Mr. Edwards here?
He just stepped out.
I think he stepped out for a second.
Mr. Statler, I want to give a little explanation of why we're postponing it. We're not removing it, we're postponing it until the next meeting. There were some processes that were not exactly followed in the line that they needed to be followed. Mr. Avalone asked for some public records that we're just now getting back to him. I don't think in the long run it's changing my opinion of what needs to happen down there, but as a courtesy to Mr. Avalone to review what's happened, I think we need to postpone it. Mr. Statlander, you may be able to answer it.
I think that we've sent him everything that he did request. I think that the request was made to send it to him last Thursday, but it did not get sent last Thursday. And according to Assistant City Attorney, Mr.
There he is.
You want to join me?
You're just in time, Malcolm.
I was just asking the question about, or explaining why I was wanting to postpone this once again. I think we're all ready for resolution on this, but if you just give them a little bit of an idea of why we're postponing it.
Correct. So the public records request that I believe came in on last Thursday, there was a holiday on Friday. The information was gathered, and the information that is available was transmitted to Mr. Avalone this morning. There was some stuff that I don't believe made it into that packet, including some signatures. I'm not sure what the status is on that. So we want to make sure that there's a full opportunity to review all of the sort of the back work, the groundwork that goes into the closure and abandonment prior to any either vote or public hearing on the matter. And that was the discussion that we had, Councilman Butcher, about potentially postponing to allow that information to be properly gathered and shared so that the vote would be fully informed and the public hearing would be fully informed.
One other thing, and we can discuss this when we vote on it in 2 weeks, but basically the city has, like I've said all along, this has been pretty much an issue that was made prior to this even being inside the city limits. It takes up all the way up to the door of a property owner. What we're gonna do is move the cul-de-sac to the right to allow for a turnaround down there. So I just wanna make sure whenever we do vote for this and we have the public hearing, that we have the city engineer here and you here to reinforce that we feel like this is solving the problem for not just this business, but all the businesses on the street. That's more of a statement than a question, but if you have anything to add, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Edwards, while y'all are thinking about whether you have anything to add, do we still go forward with the public hearing tomorrow? Is that the intention here?
The intention would be that the public hearing would also be postponed to allow for an opportunity for all parties involved to have the full complement of information.
Okay.
I just didn't feel like it was right for us to have a public hearing without Mr. Avalone having everything,
Correct.
That he needed to be able to present his case. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 145 is the noise ordinance. I believe there is a relatively new amendment, number 3, that Dr. Jackson and Councilman Brooks are co-sponsoring that may be perhaps the subject of some discussion, but I think that's likely to be the one that folks are going to be most interested in discussing and voting on tomorrow. 146 is a zoning case on property on the south side of East 79th near Fairfield. This is for a very small, like one house duplex or triplex that was approved by MPC. It's for a lower income housing unit being developed by the Unity of Faith Baptist Church. They had to make clear that the zone, I think the original zoning they applied for was not necessarily what they ended up with, but this one will let them do what they want to do.
Thank you. Any questions on those items? If not, Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table today?
No, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, on tomorrow, will we add these, the budget to the agenda tomorrow, or will we do it next meeting?
Next meeting,
Ma'am?
the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no MPC or ZBA appeals to consider tomorrow. Councilwoman Taylor has a question for
Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens. Would you come?
Do you have an estimated time frame when we will be sending that letter to the property owner regarding the sex offender home?
I'll be able to give you a full update on that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Madam Clerk, are there any other appeals?
No, sir.
Are there any reports from officers, boards, or committees? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report?
No, sir.
We have a request from the city attorney to go in executive session to discuss the following. Madam Clerk, will you read it into the record?
United States of America and State of Louisiana versus City of Shreveport, United States District Court for the Western District of Louisiana.
Is there a motion? Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman and Telefair. Are there any questions? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Thank you. We'll move to an executive session. I'm assuming we're going in the back.
Yes. Yes, stand.
Ma'am,
You standing here or?
we're going in the back.